Hey, fellow Cortanas, and welcome back to the channel. I am Cropivian, and today I am ranking my top 10 favorite episodes from season 14 of Supernatural. This season would mark pretty much the end for Supernatural as season 14 would come to a close. So, without further ado, let's get into my top 10 favorite episodes from this season. Number 10, Don't Go in the Woods. A monster that Sam and Dean have not come across is always an interesting storyline, and this one, the way the monster melts away after they eventually defeat it, that's probably the main reason why I remember this episode. That and the fact that they have to stay in the woods, essentially, in order to hunt this thing, and that it has a Native American feel to it is always a very interesting vibe for me because I have a high interest in that lore and stories and lore. But this one is definitely interesting and unique among Supernatural foes, and for Sam and Dean to come across it and eventually figure out what's going on and how to stop it just shows you through all the seasons they've been through and everything they've been through, they've learned a lot throughout the years. Number 9, Jack in the Box. Well, earlier, Dean is possessed by Michael, of course, after he said yes to him in the season finale of season 13. Now, we're getting closer to the season finale of season 14. The more we go through this wild, crazy turn for Jack, after a very bad decision, a very abrupt decision by Jack through not being able to control his abilities and his powers, it's left Dean to question how is he going to deal with this moving forward. Because now there's a new thing that's killed Sam and Dean's mom, and it's Jack. And as far as Sam's concerned, Jack is family. As far as Dean's concerned, he's just another thing to hunt. Number 8, Ouroboros. I won't lie, when I first saw this episode's title, it made me think of Albert Wesker right off the bat. I'm not going to lie about it. I'm not going to hide that. But also, at the end of this episode, when it all comes crashing down, it leaves me wondering what's next for Jack. Because in this episode, Sam and Dean enlist the help of Rowena to help them track down a demigod. But the fight to keep Michael at bay, that gets a lot harder for Dean. But by the end of this episode, we find that Michael isn't a match for Jack, who ends up consuming the power and the essence and the grace of Michael himself, essentially ending the reign of terror for Michael, it seems. It was a very interesting episode and a very cool episode, and one that would end up having a lot of negative effects to come in this season later on. Number 7, Absence. As Sam and Dean continue to worry about Jack's soul, Nick, who was previously possessed by Lucifer, continues on his downward spiral. He wants Lucifer back. He wants the Archangel to be a part of him again. He misses it. He loved the darkness. It took a big piece of him with Lucifer when Lucifer was killed. But as Sam and Dean continue to go down this road with Nick, it leaves Jack and Mary open with a lot of questions as to what is going to happen when Jack comes across Nick again. Because you know at some point he's going to. And when he does, it leaves Mary frightened. And it also leaves her, unfortunately, dead. A hard, tough episode that, once again, as a fan, you're wishing that Mary was around for a little bit longer, but at the same time, it's that Jack either is going to be the next thing that they have to kill or have to try and save themselves again. Number 6, the spear. There seems to only be one thing that can kill Michael, and Dark Kaya just happens to have it. Now Sam and Dean have to track her down in order to get it. There are a lot of twists and turns and a trap. They do eventually get the spear, and they do try and get it or utilize it to kill Michael. Unfortunately, Michael has a few tricks up his sleeve left, and he utilizes them against Dean perfectly when he is face to face with Dean once again. And when it seems like it's going to go the Winchester's way, as it usually does, Michael once again retakes Dean's body and snaps the spear in half. Number 5, damaged goods. With Dean trying to figure out how to stop Michael from breaking down the door and to retake Dean once again, instead of it being an all-out battle, he decides he's going to build a box. And he's going to throw himself into the ocean for the rest of time with an Archangel strapped to him. A very dangerous game Dean plays, but an even more dangerous game when Nick happens to come across Donna and grabs her up and keeps her hostage. A lot in this episode kind of goes to a very dark, dark place, because when you learn of Dean's plan, you're wondering, is this really the only way to stop Michael? As Dean was losing hope that they weren't going to find a way, and he didn't believe that in Sam enough at this point that Sam would find a way to save Dean. But misplaced faith once again shows in Dean tenfold. Number 4, profit and loss. Well, the Prophet Donatello is scrambling around the prophets in a bloody way, and this episode was just a healthy dose of Sam, Dean, Mary, Nick, everything coming full circle. Nick being human, but not far from done in telling his story by a long shot after this episode. But just a very tough episode. Number 3, mint condition. This one's only right with Halloween coming up this year, and it's such a fun episode as well, because even with Dean struggling with Michael still at this point, the fact of the matter is that a Halloween gigantic action figure from one of Dean's favorite horror movies comes to life and goes after him, and it's just such a good love letter to slasher flicks for Supernatural and for slasher and horror fans in general. It does kind of bring to light the question that a lot of fans, I think, ask themselves and ourselves. What would you do if you were faced with your favorite horror movie character and you're there in front of them? How would you react in that situation? A very awesome and unique episode, and I mean, that character, even though it was a ghost that was doing the possessing of these inanimate objects, action figures, and all of that, even though it was very much a spirit that was possessing these objects, I still can't get over the design of that slasher flick character in Supernatural. Just such a cool look, and hey, I'd be up for a version of the movies in our reality. I think it'd be cool. Number 2, Mariah. Well, Chuck is back. While the world is trying to recover itself from telling everybody the truth, because Jack is tired of everybody lying to him, and Jack as well is at this point trying to figure out how to go about using his power to the best of his abilities and be better and make the world better in the way that he thinks it should be. Dean, of course, is going further and further off the rails in his anger and wanting revenge on Jack. Sam still believes that there's a chance that he can save Jack. Well, Chuck, of course, comes into play to twist Dean's thinking even further, and when Sam comes to the realization that Chuck is playing Dean and just playing everybody in general because he wants Jack gone, because he knows Jack is even more powerful than he is, or just as powerful, he wants that threat eliminated, and the only way to do that is to get what he thinks is the ultimate killer in Dean to kill Jack. Well, doesn't exactly go to plan, and we would be left with Motorhead finally coming into play on a season finale or just an episode of Supernatural in one of the most hair-raising moments in Supernatural history, as Chuck says, "You want it to end? Fine. Welcome to the end." We go dark. Zombies, spirits, everybody that we've seen from season 1 all the way to season 14 pretty much is coming back for their greatest hits moments, and Sam and Dean are left with Castiel, with a dead Jack now, to fight off all of these zombies as they circle around them. And it's just such a great, great episode. Number 1, Lebanon. So Sam and Dean are now at a point where they have to use the occult to try and figure out their solutions. Unfortunately, it doesn't so much as help them in their solutions as it does bring John back. Well, not exactly back, more forward. So great to see John back. Jeffrey Dean Morgan was always a big, big piece to this show, and the fact that Mary is still with us during this episode is just more greatness to this episode, because you finally get to see the Winchesters as a family. However, there could be some dire situations happening, because once again, you change the timeline, and the timeline changes big time. Actually really good to see Zachariah back, even though he was a SOB, a son of a bitch. But this episode just had everything that you could have asked for Sam, Dean, John, Mary, to actually see all of them be a family for just one episode. That's all we needed as fans. Just that one episode, and we're good, guys. Great episode, fun episode. So, that is my top 10 favorite episodes of season 14 from Supernatural. A tremendous season, and one that, as we would come on the cusp of the end of this show, a lot of bittersweet moments, but a lot of awesome moments. So, I thank you all so much for watching. Always remember to imagine your dream, create your happiness, and live your life on the edge, and I will see you in that next episode. See ya.